Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. The United States Congress last week passed the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act bill, and basically, which the Senate, the United States Senate, any day now, before the end of this week, will surely approve this bill. It's a must-pass bill. It has to pass. I mean, it's the defense budget for the next year, basically, and it amounts to $858 billion, almost $1 trillion budget, basically. Way more money that's spent on defense than any other country. Actually, multiple countries combined still don't spend that much money on their militaries. But regardless, that's going to pass, and before the end of this year, probably by next week sometime, President Biden will sign that bill, and then it will move on. Now, there are some concerns that there might be a veto or something because there was provisions in the bill that take away a requirement right now that requires military personnel to get vaccines. Biden doesn't like that, but I don't see him voting I don't see him vetoing the bill over this because it's something that it's going to have to get passed, and I don't think he has any choice. I mean, it's just going to be the way the bill's going to. If he waits till next year, it doesn't matter because the Congress is still going to pass this. They'll still include that same provision, removing the requirement for the COVID vaccinations. But regardless, it's going to pass by the end of this year. Before December 31st, that bill will pass. And of course, as we've been talking about a lot over the past few months, as we all know, that there's language in that bill which provides whistleblower protection for anyone within the Pentagon that wants to step forward and talk to Congress about what they know with regard to UFOs and extraterrestrials. And actually, another thing that's changing now is they've changed UAP, which stood for unidentified aerial phenomena, is now going to really stand for unidentified anomalous phenomena. So that covers more things than just stuff flying through the sky. Then it covers things that are transmedium objects, things that are seen flying in and out of water, as well as objects underwater, submerged objects. So it's going to cover everything. But all these things really don't mean anything. I mean, they're going to pass the bill. There's going to be whistleblower protection in there, and I guess it remains to be seen if there are going to be any whistleblowers who step forward. Now, as you could recall, earlier this year, Stanford professor Dr. Gary Nolan indicated that he knows of people within the Pentagon who are lining up to blow the whistle on what they know with what's going on in the Pentagon. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. In fact, I don't think it will happen. I just don't see it happening. Again, I believe there's an effort ongoing right now to basically pull the rug out from any any progress we've gotten with trying to get toward disclosure. I just don't see it happening. That's just how I see it. I just don't believe it. I mean, just look what's happened over the past couple of months here. I mean, in October, the New York Times ran an article talking about this upcoming report. The report that, by the way, as of this date, we still do not have it. I mean, it's December 13th. 2022, and that report, there was supposed to be a report from the Pentagon about UAP that was supposed to be delivered to Congress. They would have the classified version, and there would be an unclassified version for public consumption. None of that has happened yet, but there was a preview of that report discussed in a New York Times article on, I believe it was October 28th. And that article basically used anonymous sources from the Pentagon and who proceeded to downplay the entire thing, the entire report that was going to be presented, basically trying to state that there were 366 objects that they were going to present to Congress in this report, and they determined that more than half of those 366 objects were either Chinese spy drones or clutter, like airborne clutter, like balloons or things like that, and the other half they did not know the answers to. They not have any. They couldn't identify. However, they didn't have enough. These anonymous sources stated that they didn't have enough information. But if they had more information, they would be able to identify them. And they were very certain that there was no way that these things would be extraterrestrial. Now, again, I don't know how they would know that, but that's what they stated. I don't see how, if you don't know what it is, how could you deem out extraterrestrial. But that was so. It seemed like we were being set up to basically have this thing start. The whole progress that we've seen over the last 5 years, it seems like things have been getting set up basically to bring it back a little bit. And I've talked about this before. But however, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't think that, here's one of the problems that we're going to see. Okay, even if this legislation passes, right? And once this legislation passes, and there's the whistleblower protection, these whistleblowers, they're not going to be able to just come out and go on TV and go on and show up on some news network and start talking about what they know. Apparently, the way this is going to work is that they're going to have to go to Congress first. They're going to have to meet with some committees in Congress, like an intelligence committee, for instance, or it could be behind closed doors where they talk to only the people in Congress about this, in Senate or House committees, right? And then it's going to be up to Congress on whether or not to release this information to the public. I don't think the Congress are. I'm not sure. I just don't see it. Now there are some people in Congress, it seems, who are open, who seem like want to get, who are interested in getting this information out to the public. But I'm not sure even if that will happen. And I'm not even sure if there's going to be any whistleblowers who step forward. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I do find it seems like something must be going on. And why is this report so late? I'm wondering, does it all tie into all of this? Does it tie into the fact that what's going on here? I mean, we're spending basically the United States is spending almost $1 trillion on a defense budget, and basically that's all taxpayer money. By the way, most of your tax dollars goes into the military, but yet a lot of us out there, a lot of taxpayers want to have this want answers with regard to UFOs, right? We want answers, and we're not getting them. And these are the people we're paying these people to protect us, and and yet we're not getting the answers, and it's very disturbing. It's disturbing, and it's like okay, you could just like boil it down to your own household. For instance, okay, if you hire somebody, right? You say you have a problem, you have a blocked chimney, right? Your chimney's blocked. You have an oil burner in your house, and there's black smoke coming out, and there must need to be cleaned or something. And you hire somebody, right, to come in and to clean the chimney, and they don't tell you what's wrong with it. They just They tell you you don't want to know. You don't need to know what's wrong with it. You just take my word for it. There's nothing to it. There's nothing was blocked there. Hey, but it's working. We got it working now. It's like lying. It's just blatant lying over years and decades, and it's just tiring. It's very tiring for people who know that there's something going on. It's very tiring. I know there's a lot of people out there who are all excited about disclosure, and there was at a point earlier this year where I was too, but I just don't see it happening now. We've been getting we're basically controlled not by although we all pay our taxes, and we're all supposed to be a representative government. At the same time, it really isn't. Right, and there are some efforts out there to even make it worse, right? To even take more power away from the people. There are efforts ongoing right now to do by big corporations, military, industrial complex, all of these things, and they're not telling us what we deserve to know. I mean, imagine, I was recently watching a documentary on Bob Lazar that came out a few years ago. That was made by Jeremy Corbell, UFO investigator and filmmaker. Very good documentary. I've seen it before, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen it. But I mean, one of the things that bothered Bob Lazar about, of course, everyone knows the story about Bob Lazar. He claimed to have worked in Area 51, S4 more specifically, in the Nevada desert back in the late 1980s. And then he came public because he was concerned for his safety. He thought the government might do something to him, so he figured the best thing to do would be to come out in the public, because then if something happened to him, well, it would look very suspicious. And he talked about that basically the government at this one place where he was at had 9 recovered flying saucers. And, his biggest, the thing that made him upset the most about that whole situation was the fact that, they're withholding this information from the people. they're withholding. It's not okay. What they're trying to do, they brought him in as a scientist to try to figure out how these things work, to reverse engineer. But what bothered him about this thing, he couldn't believe it. Like before this happened, before he got this job, he didn't even think about UFOs or anything like that. But when he got the job, he was upset because he thought that this was something that the public should know about. I mean, the whole idea that there's an intelligent race out there that's able to come to this planet and they have technology that far exceeds anything that we have. That was what was upsetting to him the most, is the fact that this was being kept from the public, and it's all these years later, it still is. I mean, in 1989 when he went public with this information, and look at all these years later now, it's just unbelievable that we're still over 30 years later, we're still living this. I don't know what you even want to call it. It's just disgusting to me. I mean, our military officials, like the people in the Pentagon, I'm disgusted with you guys. You're getting almost $1 trillion in your damn budget next year, right? Almost $1 trillion damn dollars, and you treat the American people like a bunch of morons, a bunch of idiots. And I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it, and I think everybody else should be tired of it too. I am so right now just thinking about this. The more you think about it, the more upset you. Like I'm in a mood today. I'm in a bad mood over this, just thinking about it today, because I feel like we're just being toyed with. We're being treated like children all this time for decades now, and these people in control of us, these people in the military industrial complex. Basically, it's not just the military. I mean, there's these private corporations that were brought into the loop to try to reverse engineer these things, and I'm sure they really haven't gotten anywhere with it over the years. I mean, this, if something's 10,000 years, 100,000 years more technically advanced than anything we have here, we just wouldn't be able to. Or it doesn't matter how smart your scientists are going to be. It just doesn't matter, because they're not going to be able to figure it out. And who knows? I mean, we talked about all the reasons why they may be covered it up, and there's no real good reason. There's no good reason to keep this incredible reality from the public the entire public. I mean, now of course there are people out there who know that something's going on, people who have had experiences, and also people who have done enough research to know that there's most certainly something going on here. Unfortunately, it's what this does, the harm that this has done to people over the years, that's another thing I look at. I mean, look, again, we're spending almost $1 trillion on a military budget for next year, and yet we're being lied to about this extraterrestrial presence. They're not coming forward with it. And I know that they have this information. I mean, we know that they're covering it up. We know that they have something, right? And they're not sharing that with us. I mean, for someone like me, for instance, I've seen one of these objects, so I know that this stuff is real. I mean, when you see one of these things up close, then you know that this is real, and so you understand that people within the military and all these stories that you've heard from military personnel over the years, and plus citizen reports, all of it, you realize, well, they have to know about this, right? Then they have to be covering this up for whatever reason. There's no good reason. I've talked. I went over this before. Like I proposed that maybe there's things out there we just don't know about, that they know, that if we did know, we would think that it should be covered up. But even with that said, I still don't think it should be covered up. I think it needs to be. I think the reality needs to be faced. We need to face it as a human race. It's time to end this charade that we're playing. I mean, it's just time to end it. I mean. And I just don't know. I feel like that we're in a period where things are starting to get pulled back. I mean, we haven't really heard much from a lot of some of the big names in UFOs. Like Lou Elizondo has pretty much not been talking much lately. You hear stuff. Jeremy Corbell talks every now and then. He'll put stuff out there, but for the most part, and then you have a lot of debunkers out there. Debunkers are on a. It's been like a tour de force for them recently. I mean, it's a constant stream of negative nonsense and bullshit that is totally untrue. Most of it that they spew, and they think they think they're in the right. And I just sit back and look at it, and just in my mind, it's like, boy, you just don't know how wrong you are. You're so wrong. It's unbelievable. To me, right, these people, the debunkers, are so stupid. They're stupid. They're just dumb. And the reason I feel that way is because I've seen one of these objects up close. I encountered one of the beings, right? So I know that there's something going on. I know that they're real, that this is a real phenomenon. There's something here. And our government plays these games with us, with this nonsense, even these stupid reports. When we get this stupid report, I'm going to tell you right now, and I said this before, I said this back in the end of October, early November. The report's going to be bogus junk. It's going to be junk. You know why? Because it's going to be filled with lies. They're not going to tell you everything. They're not going to tell you what they really know about some of these things. Some of these objects that they encounter that will be included in this report that's coming out are going to be extraterrestrial craft. And some people within the Pentagon, within the military-industrial complex, within private contracting, defense weapons manufacturing organizations, they know, but they sit back like gods, like they think there's like on a throne because we have this information and we're not sharing it. And that's what it's disgusting, holding back progress of the human race. I believe that if the human race were to fully be told the truth, if everyone on this planet knew for a fact, right? Because not everybody knows for a fact, right, that there's something going on here, right? I think things could change possibly for the better, actually. Because look what we're doing right now. I mean, look what's going on here. It's just, something like this, if you were to have a real disclosure on this, right? Look at the way the world is. It's just we're all just these greedy we're a bunch of greedy I mean, that's all it comes down to. Anybody who gets to the top of the ladder, they basically kick the ladder away and make it impossible for anyone else to get to the ascend to the levels that they've reached, right? That's where we're at. And then you have look what's going on over in Russia and Ukraine and all that nonsense. Look at us. We don't change. We're just the same old thing. Look at this, the way the United States is right now with all the greed and the politics and stuff and all the, the corporations basically controlling everything, right? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. We're just not. There's nothing to enlighten us, right? It's just let's spend $1 trillion on more weapons to protect us. More nuclear bombs. More weapons of war, more weapons of death. It's just, what are we doing? What are we doing? And yet they're just sitting on this truth. And what's going on here? I'm sick of it. Like, we're spending $1 trillion to a bunch of people. Okay, yeah, you're getting all this money, but you're not telling us the truth. You're keeping it to yourself, and you're actually keeping it from the people, elected officials, all these decades. Who the hell was able to make this possible? How was this possible? How did this damn thing start? I don't know. How did it start? It started sometime back in the 40s, obviously, with Truman and then Eisenhower, but it's been going on. How are these people getting away with it? And there's nothing it seems like we can do about it. People talk about it, and there's all this, well, maybe there's something. There's a lot of this stuff, too. This is what I can't stand, right, about the whole... Lou Elizondo talks about ufology needs to be obliterated and start from scratch again. In a way, he's right, but not in the way I think it needs to be obliterated in a different way, right? We're playing these games, right? We're acting stupid. A lot of us are acting stupid when it comes to this. Like, even the people who are interested in it, people who believe in it, right? Like people who say that. Well, the government might know this, or they might know. There's no might. There's no might this or might that or maybe. It's actually no. It is. It's a fact. It's a fact. They've been holding out on us. They've been holding this information away from the public, right? It's a fact. They're liars. And there's enough documentation out there and research out there that proves it. I mean, if people in the mainstream media, for instance, these people are oblivious to this whole thing. Most of them, it seems, they don't investigate this. This is the biggest story of all time. Nothing could surpass the story that there's a extraterrestrial presence here. That some presence, so some intelligence from another planet apparently, right, has engaged itself with the human race somehow, and yet There's nothing. They do not look into this. They do not believe it. Despite all the evidence, the mountains of evidence that have accumulated over the years. And a lot of us, even people in the UFO field, well, maybe the government knows something, maybe it doesn't, maybe this, there's no maybe. The government is lying. And not just the United States government, there are other governments too that are keeping this a secret. They have to be, right? They have to be keeping it a secret, because if they're not keeping it a secret, then we're, like I said this before, if they don't know anything about this, right? If what they say is true, that there's no, we never saw anything that could be deemed as extraterrestrial. If what they're saying if that was true, then we are absolutely screwed. Because I'm telling you right now, it's real, because I saw one, and I saw one of these objects up close with my eyeballs, right? And I wasn't just me, there was another witness there. And of course, and I encountered one of these beings when I was a kid. And then, I take what my own personal experience, right? And I look at all the other, people who have experienced these things themselves. And yet here we sit back, we're like powerless against the people we put into power. We're powerless against the people we put into power. It doesn't make sense. People need to get mad about this. I'm really I'm about this. We're still playing this game. I can't stand it. It's driving me crazy. If there was some way that I could prove, I wish I could. I wish there was some way that is somehow, or I could bypass all of this nonsense, right, myself somehow, and prove it myself. But I can't. I can't do it. I think the most important thing to me is that I believe the entire scientific community, the scientific community of the world, needs to finally be made aware of the reality that we are living in. And not this nonsense, these lies that we're being told, this political nonsense. I don't know. I'm very upset about all this stuff. You would think people would be happy. Well, you should be happy. There's whistleblower protection in that new National Defense Authorization Act, that $1 trillion defense budget bill that should be passed before the end of this year, and you should be happy. Seeing is believing when it comes to that. I just don't know. Who knows what kind of other tricks there? Just because there's whistleblower protection. Let's talk. Think about this for a minute. I mean, I hope I'm proven wrong. Honestly, that'd be the best thing in the world on this. When it comes to something like this, I hope I'm proven wrong. But let's just talk about this. Let's think about it. Okay, whistleblower protection in this bill. I mean, does that really going to matter? Like, how do we know what goes on behind the scenes, really? I mean, if say somebody's, say I'm working in the Pentagon, and say I'm part of the Majestic 12 board, there's 12 members on this Majestic 12 board in the, this above top secret organization in the Pentagon, and say I decide I'm one of the people on that board that decide, you know what, I'm going to take what I know to Congress. Just because there's whistleblower protection mentioned in this new bill, right, that's laid out as, hey, don't worry, there's no repercussions. How do I know there's still not going to be any repercussions? How do I know if I'm a member of Majestic 12, right? How do I know someone from the CIA isn't going to, poison my coffee, right? Or how do I know I'm not just going to have all of a sudden a car accident, and get burned alive? Like, how do you know these things? You wouldn't know it. There have been people like, for instance, I was just talking about Bob Lazar. He had mentioned, at one point, like he gets, every now and then it seems like the government, decides, hey, you know what, we're going to investigate you. And they had a raid at his house. I guess he mentioned, that there was this element 115 that he had talked about that he might have some of that or something. It was mentioned in some documentary or something. And then or mentioned on in a interview on TV or something. And then the next thing you know, his house is getting raided, by all different members, different government organizations just raiding his house, right? But again, I mean, I just don't understand. who knows what I mean, if you still would have to be afraid, right? If you want to say something, if you want to come forward and say something publicly, if you have information that would prove or help to prove that there's an extraterrestrial presence here, and you know these things, and you want to present that information, are you sure you're going to still be able to do it, even with that whistleblower language in that bill? I don't know. I think you'd still be afraid, because who knows what kind of forces are working behind the scenes. Who knows? I mean, apparently there's really strong forces, and it's not really within the military, it seems. It seems like a lot of the strings, I mean, if you go by the Wilson Davis memo, okay, of course, the Admiral Dr. Eric Davis met with Admiral Wilson back in 2002, right, and told him all these things. He, as an admiral in the Navy, he thought he should have access to all this information about UFOs, and he couldn't get it. He was denied it, basically denied it by, some private defense contractor company. Wasn't mentioned which one it was, but somehow even an admiral in the Navy, a top admiral didn't have access. So there's like forces out there that are in control of this that seem to be beyond purview, beyond they don't answer. I don't know how this worked out. Again, I'd like to know, how the hell did this happen? Who the hell's in charge of this? Who gave the okay on this? And how was it able to go on all these decades like this? And again, it's just people who know that there's something going on. Every time you see these people, like these in the recent these meetings where the representatives from the Pentagon meet with the Congress in a committee meeting, right? And you hear them talk and everything. It's like you're lying. You're not telling us everything. You're not telling us what's really going on here. It's all pre-planned bullshit, and a lot of us know it. Anyway, that's where I'm at with this. I'm just very upset about it. I just don't, again, with the way they've been downplaying this the whole time, and the way people act, and it just seems like, we're never going to get anywhere with it. And that's just the way it is. And again, I've said this before too, is like, maybe we don't have to even do, in a way, you should just not even have to concern yourself with what the military knows or doesn't know, right? I mean, because, we have enough, as far as I'm concerned, there is enough evidence out there. I mean, we just don't have enough people to step to the plate to confirm this. I mean, we need more people to step. I don't see, again, I've talked about this before, about the Ariel School incident of 1994. I mean, to me, there's no denying that. I mean, that, to me, right there, that's evidence. That's proof positive that ends the debate right there. It should end the debate. I mean, even though there's, the funny thing about that case is that it's not like there's any physical evidence. There's only the evidence of testimony of a bunch of little kids who are now grown up, and they all say the same thing. And it was 60-some kids. Okay. But again, it's just a sad situation that we're in, and I just don't see. I just don't feel like I thought it felt for a while there like we were making progress, but in recent months it seems like some forces behind the scenes have decided, you know what, screw the public, we're not telling them anything. Let's pull back here. Let's tell them it's Chinese spy drones and balloons. Yeah. That's what somebody with power behind this, somebody behind the scenes who has this power that not the people did not give this person. These are unelected officials pulling the strings. People should be furious about this, but they're not. And where's the media with this? Where's the New York Times? Instead, they run bullshit like that. Basically, what they do, they act like a press relations office for the Pentagon. They never investigate anything, right? People should be. Because I sure am. I mean, people who are interested in this subject should be sick and tired of getting around.